Hi, I'm Dr. Kate Walker, and welcome to your Tuesday coaching. I am so sorry I had to pre-record this. I looked at my flight schedule and I was like, oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to get a Step It Up in there. So this is your pre-recorded training, and today it's all about counter-transference. Now, I'm plugging in my counselor educator brain today. Counselor educators, we spend a lot of time with new counselors. I mean, you guys know this. Supervisors, you spend a lot of time with new supervisees. If you're watching this and you're a grad student, or you're listening to this and you're an associate or someone who's provisionally licensed, you may be wondering, okay, countertransference, I kind of know what that is. It's a word that I know will appear on an exam. So, you know, and even if you're seasoned, right, you might be like, oh crap, I know that's one of those words that I had to learn back in grad school, but I don't really do Freud anymore, so I don't really think about that. I'm more of a this type of person. So it's okay. It's totally okay. I'm going to strip this down to the basics because my goal is to give you information to identify it and do something with it. And my goal is that you leave this training or coaching session with sort of some bravery, I guess, some confidence, and get rid of the shame around countertransference. You know, it is what it is. You know, there's just no way of ever just sweeping it away and somehow cleansing ourselves of all the countertransference. I mean, I'll get into that more in a little bit, and it's okay. I guess that's really what I want you to hear from me today, is that it's okay, and it's a great tool. As I mentioned in the description of today's topic, it's a wonderful tool if you know how to use it, and it's a relationship destroying beast if you don't. And here we are in October, we're in September, but I think the podcast is going to air in October, because when I wrote that, or when I thought about that, I was like, oh my goodness, that is scary. But yeah, it can be. So I'm going to put my glasses on, and I asked ChatGPT, I said, what is countertransference and who thought of it? So here's what ChatGPT had to say. Countertransference refers to the emotional reactions, feelings, and thoughts that a therapist unconsciously projects onto a client, often shaped by the therapist's own personal experiences and unresolved issues. It is the therapist's emotional response to the transference, where the client transfers feelings and attitudes toward important figures in their life, like parents or partners, onto the therapist. And the concept of countertransference was introduced by Sigmund Freud. And it goes on, but I'm going to stop there. So there are a couple of things that tend to confuse people about what I just read. So there's an element of projection, right? This is what I'm putting onto my client. But there's also a feeling, which is kind of a receiver thing, right? This is what I'm feeling. And so I know that's sometimes hard, especially when we're teaching this, to help people understand, I'm doing this to somebody or it's happening to me. And the answer is both. And here's my analogy. So imagine that you have a projector, right? And you have this amazing projector, and it's going to project these wonderful home movies that you found. And so you turn on the projector, but before you turn it on, you take just a second and you go over to a jar of grape jelly, and you dip your finger in the grape jelly and you smear it all over the lens. And so the movies start, you sit down and you watch, and you're like, this movie's terrible. It's got like purple stuff all over it. I can't believe that they made this movie and it somehow made its way to me. All right, pause. You see what I did there, right? I did the thing, and then I reacted to the thing that I did. Now, the thing about countertransference, yes, you are projecting onto your client, and the grape jelly, those are the things from your past, from your trauma, from your family, from your experiences as who you are in society. And as we look at, remember, we're picturing that lens. There's a light shining through the lens, and it is projecting an image onto a wall, and that image is blurry or unclear or not the true image. So if it's a picture or a movie about a cow, you're not seeing the whole cow. You might look at the movie and say, oh, that looks more like a donkey. That looks more like a horse. Yep, that's definitely a horse. I know it's a horse. Well, that's because you smeared grape jelly all over the lens. So with our clients, what we're doing is we're projecting onto our clients from our past experiences. And so countertransference is going to result in a feeling just like you had when you looked at the movie and you said, I think that's supposed to be a cow, but it looks like a donkey to me. Or you had a feeling when you turned the movie on and you're like, oh, this is covered with grape jelly. This is a terrible movie, right? So you had a feeling of maybe irritation or anger that it was different or it wasn't what you expected. All right, in the analogy, let's go into the therapy room. So if you remember, I don't know, maybe, this was a seminal, wonderful tool back in the day when I was seeing all kinds of folks, kids, families, and it was called STEP. It was called Systematic Training for Effective Parenting. And I loved that book. Not because I was a mom. Well, actually it was because I was a mom at the time, but it was a wonderful tool to give parents, because one of the things it taught parents was if you are feeling this, then it's likely your child's behavior means this. And I'm going to misquote it, but here's the example. So if you're a mom and you're feeling irritated, then your child's behavior is likely a cry for attention. Another one would be, okay, as a mom, if I'm feeling angry, then your child's behavior was likely to be a behavior acting out of revenge for some injustice they perceive. And so again, don't quote me on that. But I loved that because it was something that it gave the parent this internal sort of barometer or flag, right, if you will, that it wasn't just like, why are you doing this? It was like, oh, wait a second. If they're seeking attention, then when I'm done doing the dishes, I'm going to get on the floor and I'm going to play Legos with them. Or if it was something where it was revenge to me, then I had to think back and go, okay, did I take a toy away from them and give it to their sister? Or is there something going on here, sibling-wise that I'm not aware of? So it was wonderful because it made me go deeper. So if you have this feeling, right now we're back to the receiving part. I'm looking at the behavior. I'm listening to my client talk. I'm watching how they treat their partner if it's a couple session. And I start having a feeling, right? I'm annoyed. I'm angry. I'm irritated. I'm disgusted. Wonderful, right? And I know that's weird. But when I was a supervisor, when my supervisees would come in for supervision and they would say, oh my gosh, I had this client and man, they were just annoying. And I trained my supervisees to do this, right? Because they knew that if they had a feeling, it was totally okay in supervision. And I was going to help them do whatever they needed to do next, right? So when you have that feeling, then we know, okay, countertransference is in the room. And I wish it could be as simple as like you learn in a cultural diversity class, like a values clarification, right? We have our students do values clarifications like, okay, how do you feel about suicide? How do you feel about abortion? How do you feel about same-sex relationships? And we have them go through and really kind of check all these boxes so they understand kind of the ones that they're aware of. Yeah, countertransference is stealthy, right? So if they're coming in and they're feeling safe, I'm talking about supervisees coming to supervision, then you have a space where they can start to go, where does that come from? I wonder what that reminds me of. Let me think back to a time. It reminds me of that so-and-so person, right? So how do we start to shed a light on this, especially if you're a seasoned professional and you don't have a supervisor, right? If you're doing this all on your own, you don't have a consultation group, and you're just, you think, well, it must be 4:00 and I'm annoyed with everybody. Okay, that might be the case. You may need a nap or a sandwich, but this is your opportunity to go deeper. So, criteria number 1 for supervision. If you want to help your supervisee go deeper, you're going to have a trusting relationship. If the relationship is ruptured in some way, this is not likely to happen. Or if your supervisee is developmentally a level 1 and they don't know you that well, it's going to be hard to go here. Or if you have ignored the OER triad. OER triad stands for orientation, evaluation, and remediation. And you skipped your orientation where you could welcome your supervisee in with a packet that let them know they would be exploring countertransference, right? And you just go, surprise, we're going to explore countertransference today, right? If you don't have a trusting relationship, it's going to be really hard to shine a light on countertransference because it's scary. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they don't know what they're going to find. They just finished this graduate school program and now they're going to have to go deeper. And if they've never had therapy before and they're not used to sort of going there. And supervisors, you may just be like, oh my gosh, you're hungry and this is a big old juicy steak because you get to put on your counselor hat. Whoop, right? But and I know you cannot stay there. So for you to delve into this, if you've established the trusting relationship, there are tools to help your supervisee understand what the heck is going on. And seasoned professionals, this is where you can jump in, right? If you don't have a supervisor, you can just jump straight to the tools. Now, I will tell you, I read books every morning, and I think if we're in this business, we need to do this so we can shine a light on what's going on inside. Because if I were to finish our definition of countertransference, what we're reacting to is the transference we perceive coming off of our clients, right? It's going through the grape jelly, it's coming back to us, and it's not making sense. Or a best example I can give you is if I'm sitting with a male client and I start getting annoyed, and then I take a deep breath and I recognize, oh, this client reminds me of my son when he was 17 years old. And I look at my client and they're putting off behaviors, maybe body posture, maybe choice of words, or tone of voice, something about my client is transference, right? So they're acting like a 17-year-old boy. And that could be because they perceive me like an authority figure, a mom or a dad or a teacher, right? We could really get deep into this, couldn't we? So our countertransference, if Freud would say, is in reaction to our client's transference, right? Who they perceive us as. Again, all of this is unconscious, right? Nobody's sitting there going, you remind me of my dad, right? At least usually that does not happen. So if we're trying to help our new counselors or seasoned folks, if you're trying to help yourself, then you're going to want some tools to really understand, okay, why is this client annoying me? A great tool to use is a genogram. A genogram where you map out your family and maybe 3 or 4 patterns related to health, related to education, and maybe 2 or 3 other things you choose that feel important to you, right? And when you start to map out a family over, let's say, 3 or 4 generations, at least 3, and there are books about this and you can grab those, it's amazing what you find out. Right. And so, I can't even begin to kind of describe what things can pop out of a genogram. Here might be one. Let's say you look at your genogram and you notice that lots and lots of people in your family became ill or died because of smoking. And you never really think about it every day. And yet you've got this client, and every time they come in, maybe they smell like smoke. And you find yourself not being able to come up with a treatment plan for this person. Or you know what, they're just so resistant and they never listen to you. And you give them good advice. Oh no, countertransference is in the room. Take a deep breath. Good job, right? Because ultimately that's what countertransference is for. It's that flag waving that says, uh-oh, danger, danger, there's grape jelly on the projector, right? You're not getting the whole picture here. And so that bias, remember, it's not related really to values or religion or anything like that, or something that you might be consciously aware of. This is related to something that you didn't even realize you were picking up in that marvelous computer called your brain. So a genogram is marvelous for, and you know what? I would say do this anytime you have a client who, when you leave that session, you are like done. I would say even do it for clients that you like really look forward to them coming back or feel like, oh, we could be friends. That is a very slippery slope. The ones we don't like are the ones we like too much. That is our countertransference, waving the flag, sounding the trumpet, going, hey, there's some more information here. You've smeared the projector with your grape jelly fingers. We got to figure out how to clean this thing off so that you can go back to helping this person, right? And not just reacting to them. Another good book, I know when I was first starting out as a brand new counselor, my site supervisor made me read The Dance of Anger. Y'all, I think at that point, it was like, I don't want to say done, but it was like a growing up moment. Like I read The Dance of Anger and all of a sudden my entire childhood made sense. I can't make it any simpler than that. So it had this effect on me of helping me understand when I was disgusted with a client who wouldn't do what I told them to do, who maybe, oh, that client's being a bully to me. They're being so mean to me. Open the Dance of Anger. Look at my genogram. Nope, that's not what's going on here. What's going on here is somehow this client is reminding me subconsciously of somebody or some situation I don't even remember or I'm not consciously aware of. So, number one, in order to get to the bottom of all this, trusting relationship. Number two, genogram. Genograms are amazing. Number three, a great book. And then once you know these things, then countertransference is like your best friend. I know with me, I worked with couples, and couples surviving infidelity. And that's a tough population. And a lot of times the mistake new and seasoned counselors will make is they'll pick a side, and they don't mean to. It's just they feel that they may not feel the bias, or the bias makes sense. Well, they're the one that did the bad thing, so they're the ones that has to be punished. And so we kind of side up, or we kind of team up on the offender. And that situation, that population really helped me understand my countertransference. There was no shop vac that I took to clean up my countertransference and make it go away. It's not like that. It was simply an awareness. And I thought I was good until, yep, you're right, I've got a story. So this was years into my professional counseling career. And I was doing some marriage counseling with an older couple. We'll say an older couple is late 60s, early 70s. And they came in my office. They were from a different country. And we talked about culture. We talked about traditions, things like that. And so very, very different from me and my family of origin in the way they spoke, how they looked, how they presented. Just wasn't anything ringing any bells from, the McClellan family, from when I was a kid. And I was So countertransference, there were no flags waving, there were no horns sounding. On my end, it felt like the projector was really clear until the gentleman got angry with me, and he leaned forward and he pointed his finger and shook it at me. I started crying. I know, it surprised me too. I was just mortified. There I was in a professional session in a situation I'd been in 100 times. Clients get mad at us. It's okay. They're supposed to. And I was a mess. And so, of course, the session ended and the couple both felt terrible. He felt terrible. And, they both tried to console me, which mortified me even more. And long and short of it is, countertransference can sneak up on us at any time. Even though this couple was, in my conscious opinion, my conscious view, very different from my parents, my family of origin. When that gentleman leaned forward and shook his finger at me, he became Mick McClellan, my father. And it was not something unresolved inside of me, just decided to wake up and take over the therapy session. And, it's when that happens, I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop crying for a few minutes, and then I got myself together, and then I went into therapy for a little while because, honestly, that's a seasoned therapist. I'm talking to you now. If you don't have a supervisor, then get your butts into therapy, right? If something sneaks up on you like that and you're not able to manage it in a therapeutic way, first of all, have some grace and compassion for yourself. It happened. It's okay. You can talk to the couple or the client and make it all, smooth it over. But you are important in that moment. You finding out, okay, what just happened can, most of the time, there's some great books out there, but you got to get your butt into therapy and figure it out so you don't find another landmine as you go through the developmental stages of counseling, right? We're developmental too. I was 30 years old when I started this, and now I'm almost 60. So yes, I've grown up, I've changed, my memories have changed. And when I do counseling, I'm a different person than I was 25 years ago. So it's okay, beginning counselor, to have it. First of all, understand there's no shame. We're not trying to cure you of it. You're not a success if you don't have it. Grad students, associates, it is okay. It is normal to have countertransference, and your supervisor will show you how to deal with that. Seasoned counselors, ditto. Countertransference is okay. You're allowed to have it, and you just need some different tools to deal with it since you don't have the supervisor to help you out. So get the books, do the therapy, and then, oh my goodness, what a relief. It is this flag that will wave, and it will say, hey, intervene over here. I think you missed a spot. Ooh, you know what? This flag's waving, and you know what? I think this over here might be a thing with your client. Get a feelings chart handy. I started putting one in my phone, just, more than happy, sad, mad, afraid, surprised. And it blew me away after a session if I just kind of scrolled through my feeling list and just, okay, what was I feeling during this session? And it would take me in these spaces to intervene with my client that I wouldn't have come up with if I hadn't gone a little deeper. So long and short, I love countertransference. Don't be afraid of countertransference. Your clients will never know what countertransference is if you, unless you cry in the middle of a session. And anyway, you don't have to tell them it was countertransference. You can tell them it was allergies. I don't know. But your client's transference is normal. Your countertransference to that transference is normal. So if something just feels off and you can't get to the bottom of it with the books and the genogram and the things, then get your butt into therapy. All right, guys, take this information and go do amazing things with your client. Take care.